You're listening to the audiobook of Lessons from the Cage, Life Lessons from MMA. Copyright 2022, Roger Grimes, all rights reserved. Published by Newman Springs Publishing and is read by the author, Roger Grimes. Introduction. Welcome to my book, Lessons from the Cage. I am so glad you are here to take part as I share with you the experiences I have gained in amateur MMA, mixed martial arts, cage fighting, and the life lessons I have gained through these fights. I hope you may draw some inspiration or guidance from this book. Here's a little bit about myself. My name is Roger Grimes. I have been training in the martial arts since 1992. I am currently a 7th degree black belt in Kempo Karate as the time of the writing of this book. I owned a karate dojo or school from October 2002 to December 2020. I am currently a minister at my local church. The intentions of this book is, like I said earlier, to inspire and give some guidance through sharing my experiences. Even though I share biblical scripture, doesn't mean this book isn't for everyone. These are life lessons that can be relatable to the masses, regardless of religion, nationality, of race, or gender. They are applicable life lessons. At the end of the book, I will share why I started MMA fighting, as well as a breakdown of all of my cage fights. Enjoy the journey through these lessons and my story. Sincerely, Roger Grimes. Lesson 1. Humility. Quote, always enter like a kitten and leave like a lion, but never enter like a lion and leave like a kitten. Always stay humble. End quote. That was Carlson Gracie. I wasn't a stranger to humility. Heck, I spent my whole life moving from one humiliating experience to another. I gave a speech once titled, "My Life is a Humbling Experience." I don't know why I thought MMA, mixed martial arts, cage fighting would be different. As I was talking to the fight promoter to set up my first MMA cage fight, I told him to give me a good opponent. That request wasn't from arrogance or cockiness, but I thought, since I was at that time a 5th degree black belt with nearly 17 years of point fighting experience with a winning record, I didn't want a cakewalk. I might have had too much confidence in my martial arts training and didn't think about the possibility of losing. The promoter set me up to fight a young man who was around 22 years old, and I was 33 years old. The young man was a tough kid who had about 6 MMA cage fights and won most of them, and I wasn't an exception. I lost to him also, in less than 2 minutes. That day I was face to face with humility once again. After the shock of humility and the bruises wore off, I picked up wisdom. I know we all have been hit with humiliating and just downright embarrassing situations in life, but I suggest to learn from these moments. Lift yourself up and knock the dust off of you and become better. If you humble yourself, the fall will not hurt so bad because you didn't set yourself up on a pedestal, or we can say put yourself on that ever famous high horse. Even though I didn't come into the cage fight arrogant and cocky, I inadvertently put myself on that high horse. and the fall was a taste of humble pie. Bible quote, "For through the grace given to me, I say to everyone among you not to think more highly of himself than he ought to think, but to think so as to have sound judgment. And God has allotted to each measure of faith." End quote. That was Romans 12:3, New American Standard Bible, 1995. Many people have fallen due to hubris. What is hubris? I'm glad you asked. Definition of hubris: excessive pride or self-confidence. Many famous and not so famous people have fallen because of pride. You may know a few people personally. You can't help them, but you possibly can influence them. The only one you can change this pride issue with is the person you see in the mirror. And I'm not talking about your family member who passed by as you are looking in the mirror. I'm talking about you. Pride will block sensibility. You may never have dealt with this issue before until you got good at something. And then before you knew it, pride had set in. Bible quote, "When pride comes, then comes disgrace. But with humility comes wisdom." End quote. That's Proverbs 11:2, NIV. There is an old saying, pride comes before the fall. Well, that fares to be true, no matter who you are. Quote, "Pride makes us artificial, and humility makes us real." End quote. That's Thomas Merton. Quote, "The proud man can learn humility, but he'll be proud of it." End quote. That's Mignon McLaughlin. If I just stayed humble, I would not have underestimated my young opponent. But the lesson I learned from the fight was priceless. I wouldn't change a thing because the loss in that manner was humbling and helped me improve as a martial artist, instructor, and a person. Quote, "Humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less." End quote. That's C.S. Lewis. I'm not saying don't do anything so you can avoid humility. I'm saying humility happens, and it is an important part of maturity and character growth. We are all not without error. At some point, we will do something or have something done to us that will be embarrassing and downright humiliating. But it is what you do after the thing that brought you to the point of humiliation that will define your growth, stunted growth, or decline of your growth in your character. It's funny how many times we want success without the process to get there. I thought I was going to do one fight, and losing wasn't in my thought process. Do a pride check. I'm pretty sure you will find some pride within yourself. And when you find it, consider if that pride is holding you back from your personal greatness. It might be holding you back to an inflated ego or the fear of getting your pride crushed. Humility has